Who are the most powerful people in America? Are you ready to find out live with me? Because I am ready to find out live with me. Who indeed? Fascinating! The top comment is Nazi. Incredible how quickly. I was actually expecting better. I was actually expecting for it not to be the top comment. But I mean, yeah, it's everything. They're all Nazis. Seriously, fans of PragerU are Nazis. Not guys, just so you know, like, I know the culture war is fun and all, but the people who do this literally support it's the Jewish question. Every single person who fucking liked this, every single person who typed out comments like these people probably deserve to die. They're Nazis. I don't know. Look, see all of this. Look at this. This is exactly what I mean when I talk about neoliberalism and reactionaries courting white nationalists. This video, they're never going to say the Jews. They're literally never going to say it. That's not their brand, even though they might think it. And the people in chat, these fucking people, they don't have the same limitations placed on them because they're not trying to be like a multi-million subscriber fucking propaganda network. So, without those limitations, they're free to speak their mind fully, which is to say they want to see the real rulers of America called out. They want to see the Jews called out. They want to see the Jewish question discussed. They want to see the Jews recognized as the threat to democracy that they are. This is exactly what I mean. You also get the Nazis, like with Trump. They're like, I'm mad. Trump, I thought he was based, but he hasn't raped a Muslim on stage yet. Okay. Let's go.
If someone suggested to you that Americans should reject representative government and return to the rule of kings, you would laugh. This is America, you would say. In our revolution, we got rid of monarchy. And of course you'd be right, but only to a point. Monarchy is making...
Is this man a product of necromancy? What are with these eyes? Did he just cry? Don't they get like a makeup team before they do these videos, before millions of people see these propaganda pieces? Look at this man's eyes. Yeah, and the teeth. Look, I'll forgive the teeth because you can't make up teeth. But what the fuck? Get some concealer on these bags. Holy shit, he looks like he's been crying, like they had to beat the shit out of him to get him to do this video.
Making a comeback.
Who is
Though
this
not
cum
in the way you
stain?
think. Let me
Professor of law. All right, let's see.
explain. A king is one person. Get rid of him, and you might get your freedom back. But what do you do when the nation has come to be controlled by thousands of little kings, almost supreme in their specialized fiefdoms, who have vast power over your life, much as a king might?
Wait, you mean like the aristocracy? This guy realizes that if you killed the king in a monarchist society, that wouldn't just end society, right? What? Also, yeah, if you want to talk about tiny little dictators who control every aspect of your fucking life, what about your business owner? What about your boss? I may be able to vote in my elections, but can I vote to who lords over me and applies the rules in my 8 hours a day workplace setting? Do I have any control over the environment in which I earn my living? No?
Good question, because that's what we're up against. This regime is called the administrative state. Its little kings are unelected bureaucrats, officially known as administrators, secretaries, or even czars. And
is this really going to be about bureaucracy as a concept? Is that really what we're here for? All right.
make no mistake, they are very powerful. Their decisions affect us every day. The FDA, the FCC, the SEC, and so on and so on. Put together almost any 3 or 4 random letters, and chances are you've stumbled on a government agency. These agencies and the people in them shape our lives, often for the worse. Many farmers...
Often for the worse? What? Jesus Christ. Like we're talking about officials in government. Like, these people change lives, often for the worse. Okay. That's a very meaningless statement. Weather does things to the environment, often bad. Okay.
In California lost their livelihoods because the Fish and Wildlife Service decided that the delta smelt, a tiny fish, was more important than the farmer's water supply.
Okay, that's a nice meme. Some fucking underlaid bias here. I'm not familiar with the specifics of this policy, but I'm going to guess from the way this dipshit is phrasing it, is that in order to preserve this ecologically relevant species, the agency in question had to change some policies concerning water usage. And this is being framed as fish are more important than the human farmers. These fucking unelected SARs robbed them of their water to give to the fishy, who they made sure was visible as very small, just so you know how unimportant the fishy is concerning this particular issue.
That decision may have been right or it may have been wrong. My point is simply that the decision should have been made by our lawmakers, who are accountable to us at the next election.
No. This is an unbelievably stupid take. The bureaucratic state is the only way of managing the complex processes which we rely upon our government for, and there is no conceivable way all of these processes and policies and what have you can be filtered through the electorate. There is no possible way government would function. Do you really want your state Congress, the fucking law students who got elected to your state Congress, determining whether or not a particular change in water policy could affect the livelihood of some fish in some lake? What? It'd be impossible. They'd be brought 1,000 issues a day, and they would be qualified to address maybe a dozen of them. This is not how bureaucracies work, and this is an incredibly insincere way of criticizing the bureaucratic state. The problem with these administrators who administrate these decisions without having been elected is not that they are unelected. It is very often that the bureaucracy they oversee, whatever government agency they were a part of, is poorly administered, given insufficient funding, or doesn't have enough oversight. It has nothing to do with the fundamental problem of them being unelected. We can't have every decision in this country being made by someone who is elected. That would be insane. Unrelated, but you helped me get laid with your flirting advice? Is that true? I mean, fuck, if so, hell yeah. I'm glad that stream benefited someone other than bearing my soul to the world. Did you ever think that maybe it isn't a race of people, but actually the ideology month of producing kind of a lot of Jewish people, but not every Jewish person is globalism. Globalists who choose these. There's no relationship between Jews and globalism. It's just a Nazi talking point. There's really no relationship. Globalism is pushed by pretty much everyone who has any meaningful understanding of economics or political theory. It has nothing to do with the Jew agenda. Vosh video, I'm trying to learn about gender. Do you have a good resource for explaining about agender and such things? Thanks. I don't have any good resources offhand, though I know I've consumed quite a few of them. I mean, what do you want to know? Agender is pretty... I was about to say agender is pretty simple, and then I remembered that it's not. No, I do not have any resources I could provide at this moment. I apologize. Though it's something I'd be more than happy to discuss in the future. They also don't mention, anytime they point to CA farmers, is that CA farming is a fucking meme where so many farmers make products for the sake of luxury production, not for jobs or food. Yeah, CA farming is not like the breadbasket, the fucking river of subsistence that the rest of America depends on. Didn't we have a bunch of fucking almond farmers? Okay.
Those farmers are among the millions of hardworking people directly hurt by the administrative state.
And there are plenty of people helped. This is nothing. This is an insubstantial critique. What you have to say if you're making a critique of the administrative state is they do more harm than they do good, and here's a suitable alternative. This video will not pose either of those things.
And many more millions have been indirectly hurt, such as all those discouraged from even starting a business by miles of bureaucratic red tape. This is not an argument against government regulation per se, but against regulation imposed by bureaucrats rather than by our elected lawmakers, whom we can hold accountable at the next election. Here's the larger...
Okay, but Are many of the people in these bureaucracies not appointed by those lawmakers? Am I not correct on this? I could be wrong. Many of these administrative positions are appointed by lawmakers. Is he suggesting then that we should elect the head of the EPA, that we should elect all of the Supreme Court judges, that we should elect all of the fucking people that Trump's supposed to form appointments for over the past couple years? Of course not. That would be ridiculous. We can't have every fucking ballot box be choked with 80-page voter submissions where you find in the fucking tablet ID of the millions of people eligible to run for all of these thousands of positions. You fucking tap the little millimeter wide box for every of the No. This isn't how it works. Appointments have to be made. I'm sorry. This is a necessary concession that we make in a democratic society. You cannot elect everybody.
Danger. As bureaucracy grows, individual freedom diminishes.
There's no relationship between those two things.
How do we get into this mess? And more importantly, how do we get out of it? America's founders recognized the problem. They didn't like being told what to do by people they hadn't voted for.
But they did like telling their slaves, who had no vote whatsoever, what to do. Just pointing that out.
They built all kinds of protections into the U.S. Constitution, starting with its very first line after the preamble. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. All legislative powers.
And the people they appoint. Or should we base our modern government off of the legislative authority and government reach which was possible in the 18th fucking century?
Not some. This means only Congress can make the nation's laws. Congress thus cannot divest itself of that power to a bureaucracy. And that's how America operated for most.
But it already does. Behind every congressperson is an army of assistants, of administrative staff, of secretaries, of lobbyists trying to push them one way or another. Just because one person in the bureaucratic chain is an elected official does not mean the process by which laws are ratified isn't subject to bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is a necessary part of a modern, functioning government. This is a law professor. This is ridiculous. Is this another one of those Jordan Peterson types, you know, where like they're kind of respected in their own department, but then they go off on some horse shit, and right now they're just riding it out because they have tenure? It's maddening to me. This is not how representative democracy can function in the 21st century.
Of its first 100 years. This changed when many Americans, such as Woodrow Wilson, fell in love with centralized bureaucratic power. Wilson was a university professor before he moved into politics and eventually became president in 1912. A self-described progressive reformer, he was impatient for power.
Wait, am I not wrong, or is Woodrow Wilson the person who had the first White House screening of a movie, and it was the birth of the nation, and at the scene where the fucking black people were in Congress, and they're like monkeying out and like they've got their feet up on the desk and stuff? Is he not like clapping what, like yes, this is how the Negroes would behave in Congress, or something along those lines? Is this guy all right? Progressive reformer, forehead.
He wasn't interested in persuading the American people to come over to his point of view. That would take too long. So instead, he aimed to shift lawmaking power out of Congress and into the hands of a professional class of government workers.
There is no conceivable reason why Woodrow Wilson and the people who came after and before him would be interested in the bolstering of a bureaucratic state other than because he didn't want to go through the hard work of getting the people who were elected to agree with him. It's all a sneaky trick for getting your ideas shoved onto a class of people who aren't accountable to the public. It has nothing to do with the necessities of managing a modern government whatsoever.
In other words, bureaucrats. Franklin Roosevelt, who served in Wilson's cabinet, perfected his mentor's vision when he became president. For him, as for Wilson, there were few problems that administrative power couldn't solve.
They're literally talking about this like FDR was his like the Lenin to Stalin transition. He finished the work. Woodrow Wilson couldn't. He took the administrative government, the bureaucracy, and expanded it well beyond its previous capacity. Now the voters meant nothing.
FDR's presidency produced an alphabet soup of new government programs that vastly expanded the administrative state.
Oh, no.
And since then, it has grown even more dramatically.
Oh, no.
Congress still passes laws, but it leaves it to the bureaucracy to fill in the gaps. And these gaps can be enormous. Consider, for example, the Affordable Care Act of 2009, what came to be known as Obamacare. The bill itself was over 2,500 pages, but Congress left much unspecified. So, career government officials, elected by no one, went to work. And by 2013, there were an additional 10,000 pages of regulations.
Listen, I am not 100% in support with how the Affordable Care Act was presented. In fact, I think it was a shitty and toothless piece of legislation. But if you think the debacle surrounding this piece of legislation's growth has anything to do with the bureaucratic state and doesn't have anything to do with the influence of lobbyists and contention in the political sphere, like constant arguments as to which bill gets stipend onto which and what gets packaged with what, all processes which are accounted for and a part of the actual legislative process, then you know literally nothing about how laws get passed. Is he still updating the money goal? I mean, I'm updating it as money comes in. I don't think it's coming a while. And as I say that, MF Zoom! Thank you so goddamn much for that tier 1 subscription. Beating PragerU at their own game by giving me money. Look, it's a 3. I don't even have to... I can just... oh! That efficiency. Amazing. All right, let's finish this shit show from someone who has literally no idea what they're talking about. A fucking law professor, too. Credentials mean nothing.
So how do we rein in these faceless monarchs? First...
Faceless monarchs. Ah!
Congress should actually do its job and take responsibility for the laws it passes.
I agree with this. Way too often our congresspersons passed legislation and they're just like told to vote on it by a lobbyist, by a party official. They just get handed this stack of papers and they say, you know, yeah, we're voting on this. This is, you need to. I mean, there will be kickbacks to your state. Okay, just get it in, and then they just fucking vote on it. Businesses will literally just hand laws over to congresspersons to vote on. It's insane. But you know what that is? That's a fucking capitalism. That's business. That's lobbying. That's corporatism. That is not government bureaucracy.
Don't hold your breath. But they at least could do this. Congress should end legal immunity for bureaucrats who abuse their power.
I admit, I am not entirely familiar with this. Is it true that government bureaucrats experience any kind of legal immunity for the consequences of their policy making?
If they know they can be sued, they'll be a lot more sober about imposing rules others have to live.
Wait, sued? Not wait. I thought he was talking about facing penalties from within the government. You mean suing? Like if a farmer doesn't like the fact that water restrictions have made it unprofitable to tend to a certain portion of land, they can then sue a government official? That would be fucking insane. The ability to open up a lawsuit against someone is a chilling effect on policy. All this would do in function is ensure that any time a bureaucrat passes any piece of policy which is unfavorable to a business person, the business person could just threaten a lawsuit and nothing would get done. Nothing. Holy shit. This is insane. If this went through, if this became possible, this would be the end of representative democracy as it exists in this country. This would literally tear the country apart. Nothing would get done. But this guy's okay with it. Or maybe he's not? He looks like he's been crying. Is there a gun to his head? Is there someone like right off to the fucking side of the camera with a Glock or like a Walter P pointed at this guy's fucking skull, his very visible skull? Hey, law professor, you will repeat the points we have written on this teleprompter, or this bullet will be the last thing that goes through your mind. Is that what's going on here? Are these red eyes the product of him tearily demanding they spare his wife and children? I don't know. This is an insane idea to be able to sue bureaucrats at a civil level. It would break everything. No rational person with any understanding of this process can support this. Has Vosh made fun of his name yet? Nah, I'm above that. I'm big responsible boy.
Bye. Second, the courts should do their job. They must follow the law. That means protecting our constitutional freedoms, including our right to representative government.
There is no right anywhere listed in any document that says that every single person who makes any kind of decision in government has to be an elected representative. It has never worked that way.
No more bureaucratic rulemaking. And finally, we have to do our job. We must assert our freedom in conversation, on the web, and in the courts. We don't want to be ruled by a king or thousands of little kings.
We're not.
As the founders would have said, no regulation without representation. I'm Philip Hamburger, professor of law at Columbia Law School and president of the New Civil Liberties Alliance for Prager University.
New Civil Liberties Alliance. Let's see how much of a fucking chud factory this is. Non-profit, public interest law firm, pro bono litigation against what? Why would you say that about? Protecting constitutional liberties from systemic threats, primarily the administrative state. Oh shit, so this might be this guy's like main thing. Like the administrative state might be like the main thing this guy's on about. By the way, I'd like to note that video had literally nothing to do about Jews, and also the Jewish question is not about Jews assuming power in like these unappointed administrative bodies. That's not the argument. Nazis don't make the argument like, yes, our elected non-Jewish representatives are being bullied into appointing Jewish unelected representatives. That's not the argument. They're just bringing up Jews because they'll shoehorn it in. They don't even care about the consistency of their own anti-Semitic theory. They care about anything that will deliver the result they're looking for, and the result they're looking for is the complete and absolute genocide of all Jewish people, along with other undesirables. Never think there was any consistency to their arguments. If a person starts to question the legitimacy of Judaism in America or the arbitration of power Jews have in America, remember this: they don't care about it. They don't care about how that power exists, whether or not that power exists, the extent to which that power exists, how that power is administrated, or whether or not that power exists at all. The story they perpetuate is just a means to an end, and the end is genocide. Remember, dishonesty, anti-intellectualism, lying, these are core tenets of fascism. They are not products of it, they are integral to it. Never forget that.